Hi, I'm Barbara Chris.
And I'm Clarissa,
We're two friends, entrepreneurs, and experts in our field.
joining forces and talking all about life, business, tools for success, and more.
So, without further ado, here's to Dope Women.
Everyone, and welcome back to our podcast, Here's to Dope Women. We are now on episode 7. Crazy.
Woo-hoo!
My name is Clarissa, and I am a hairstylist and salon owner here in not so sunny Southern California. And here is Barbara. She is a nutritionist and a weight loss coach, my beautiful co-host, and here we are.
Hey, thank you for joining us, everyone. And oh my God, Clarissa, seriously? Episode 7? How did this happen?
I know, it's so crazy.
I know.
Yeah,
Well, how are you? I feel like I haven't seen you in forever.
I know, even though it's been like a few days.
2 days.
It's so crazy, but it's raining here. It's been
Mhm.
raining off and on. It's been insane. I swear, I thought my pool in my backyard was going to overflow.
It was that, oh my God.
It was
yeah.
that high. I was like, oh my gosh, so crazy.
Not good.
Yeah. So anyways, today, what we wanted to talk to you guys about was support, and I guess lack of support from the people that are closest to you, right? Your family, your friends, maybe even sometimes your spouse, your boyfriend,
Yes.
your girlfriend, whoever. Because I think this has been kind of like a topic that me and Barbara we've discussed before. She's been sitting in my chair, I'm doing her hair, and we've talked about how crazy it is that it's like the people that support you the most are almost like strangers,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I've
It's-
had people who are just like, dude, you're killing it. And I'm like, really? Like, I feel like you barely know me, right? And then the people that are closest to you, it's kind of like, right, blah.
Yeah.
And there's no support. So we wanted to get on here and we wanted to talk about lack of support, maybe, some stories that we can tell you that have happened to us, and then maybe some tips and some tricks to kind of find that motivation when you feel like you're not being supported.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it so well, Krista. I know, like I've sat in her chair many times sharing with her all these stories. And that's why we wanted to bring this to you today, is really to talk through it, share with you guys our lessons learned, some of them kind of hard lessons to learn. But really at the end of the day, it's a way for us to just keep moving and to keep going with whatever dream that you're after, right? Because a lot of times when you feel like you don't have that support or that cheering section behind you, it feels like, well, then maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I should stop. And so that's exactly what we don't want you to do.
Exactly. I know it's very easy to get discouraged, right?
Mhm.
Say you come up with a business idea and you're talking to your, I don't know, your cousin about it. And
Mhm.
they're like, oh, well, and then they start bringing up maybe all the reasons why you shouldn't be doing that. Or maybe they
Yeah.
just have a negative mindset or not a growth mindset. And people
Mhm.
just get discouraged, and then they don't actually end up doing anything because they just are like, oh, well, maybe they're right.
Yeah.
And
You
it's
feel
kind
like
of sad.
I think we were talking about how just it's human nature, especially with the people who are around you, to want, that validation, or that's like that acceptance. Like we all want to be accepted. We don't want to think that we're crazy. And like you said, many times when, especially if let's say you are having to pivot, whether it's in your career or you have this great idea and you want to start your own business, or however you're kind of changing things up. And then you go to the people who are closest to you, right? Whether it's a boyfriend, a significant other, or a sister, or a cousin, someone's close to you, and it's like crickets. You share with them this really important, or maybe even it feels like it's almost like something that you're almost unsure that you want to share. It's scary for you too, and then you do, and then the crickets. Then what?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm sure it's happened to you, Claire. So what happened? Like, share with us a story where something like that happened, and what did you feel, or how did you feel, and what did you do?
So, I can definitely tell a story about, something that had happened to me a couple years ago. So, when was it? I want to say back in 2020, which is now 3 years ago, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I guess I had a very like short hobby, I guess you could say, where I did some modeling. I got hit up by a photographer, and she was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about modeling?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not working right now. Like, we're in a pandemic." Like,
Yeah.
so I was like, I mean, yeah, you know what? That would be kind of cool. Like, she's like, "Let's just do a test shoot." So I was like, okay. So, went there, we did the test shoot. It went really well. The pictures came out so great. And
Hmm.
then I got a text from her a couple days later, and she said,
Yeah.
"Hey, I submitted the pictures, obviously with my permission, but she's like, I submitted the pictures. for publishing in an editorial French magazine,
Yeah.
and they accepted your pictures. So my very first photo shoot of actually being in front of a camera,
Yeah.
I got published in a magazine, and I was like, what? I was like, this is
Yeah.
so
Like,
crazy. So yeah, I was like so excited. I was just pumped. I was so excited. I was like, that is so cool, especially
yeah.
like international, a French magazine. That's so cool. So
Hell
I
yeah.
remember, telling the people closest to me, like my boyfriend was all excited. He's like, dude, go, go you. That's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And I text my best friend at the time, and I was like, dude, I got published in a magazine. Literally the text that I got back, congrats.
You're like, that's it. I know.
Congrats. And I'm just
Like,
like, what? Like, okay, I guess it's like not that big of a deal, right? And I was just like,
yeah.
okay. So that was definitely a time where I was like, and I mean, that was, I guess, just one of like many times where I felt, unsupported, and like this was supposed to be my best friend, right? If she
Yeah.
had texted me and told me that, I was like, I would be like, dude, that's fucking amazing. Like I would be posting her like all over my Instagram, like, check out my best friend, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I would be like so stoked, but there was so many times where I just felt like she wasn't cheering for me. And I just,
Yeah.
and I definitely, I guess, stayed in that friendship for quite a while. And then it just got to a certain point where I'm like, I'm just going to put as much effort into this as they're putting it into me and our friendship. And
Mhm.
that's when the relationship, the friendship just dead. It just ended.
Ooh.
So what about you, Barbara? Well, is there like a story
You know
that
what?
you can
Yes.
tell?
Oh my God, yes. And I know like we've talked about a lot of these. I'm not sure if I shared this one with you, but I remember well, first of all, for those of you who don't know, I was, into competitive bodybuilding. I was in the bikini division for wow, I think my first competition as an amateur, I was 40. I was 40. So oh my gosh, like 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago. And it was one of those things where at the time it wasn't my point to get into competitive bodybuilding. I started working out with a friend. We were going to boot camps. We're just getting really into it. And then by chance, I met these girls at the gym I was at, and this is what they were doing. They were competing, and they invited me, and they're like, "Hey, you want to come kind of check this out? We're going to do posing practice. You can kind of see what it's all about." And I remember when I first went, I was like, "Oh my God, like what in the hell is this?" I just thought it was like, I mean, I thought it was cool. It wasn't judgmental, but I was thinking, there's no way in hell I'm going to do that. Long story short, I got into it. I freaking loved it. It was one of those things that for me, fitness, and I've shared this. Like I feel like fitness saved me in so many ways. But I loved competing, and I actually did really well in it. I mean, I won my pro card the next year, so I was doing really well. And I remember in a very similar situation, I would share with people closest to me, like family members, and I really felt like, and my best friend at the time, and in fact, she was actually supportive at first, but overall, like, certain family members were just not,
Yeah.
like hardly at all. In fact, they didn't really even have any interest in talking with me about it. And what I was trying to get to is my coach at the time, she shared with me this really good piece of advice, which I think a lot of you can, if you're listening in, you can take this to heart as well. If you're struggling with, let's say, someone close to you and they're not supporting you. So my coach at the time, Ingrid, she shared with me, she's like, you know what? A lot of times they just don't get it. They just don't understand. So don't take it personally. Don't think that they're just not wanting you to do good and to succeed. They just don't get it. And maybe it's up to you to see if you can help them understand it more. And I thought that was really, for me, it was like a turning point for me, because up until that point, I would tell you that I was really hurt, and I felt like they were just kind of letting me hang out there, like they didn't care, right? Kind of like just, wow, I'm really disappointed in their or lack of response. And for me, that helped kind of switch things a little bit.
For sure. Because I mean, it's really hard to not take that personally,
Mm,
right? Like they're just not being supportive. They're not,
yeah.
cheering you on. And it's like a complete lack of like interest in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, even though I feel like even though, it's like if someone's getting into something that you're not in, it's still like you should still be there for that person. You should still cheer them on, even if you
Yeah.
don't really fully understand. But also too, I mean, it's good that you were able to switch that, and that advice that your friend gave you was like amazing.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those things too that I was struggling big time with it because at that, at that time too, there was a lot of other personal changes I was going through. I think by that time I was already, had gone through a separation, was in the heat of a divorce. I had been living, in separate houses for at that point, close to 2 years. So, a lot of those things were sort of already going on. But I was really in need of, a good support system around me. And at that point, I didn't feel like I had it. And so she helped me understand that sometimes it's really upon, like, it's our responsibility, if it's important to us, right, to kind of share with those that love us, why that's important to us. And then that, I think, is then another fork in the road, right? Because if we do that, we do our due diligence and we're giving them grace and giving them understanding that they just don't get it, but then we kind of share with them why it's important to us. And if they still don't support and you kind of feel like, wow, that's not kind of the kind of vibe I want, then that kind of brings on boundaries too. Like maybe there's certain boundaries with certain things that you have in your life and with certain people, that you just can't go there. I don't know. Does that
For
make
sure.
sense?
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Because I
Mm.
mean, as I kind of got a little bit more into, the modeling, I started getting more publishings, and I actually got two, covers.
Yeah.
I
I
got on two
remember.
covers. Right. And I
Yeah.
was like, I was like so excited, but definitely the first person, I mean, I didn't even tell her, I didn't even text her like, oh my God, I got on a cover. Right.
Mhm.
So I just kind of like, I guess I just didn't bring it up to her after that. And
Mhm.
um, yeah, to me, it's like, you kind of have to keep people, especially like family members, friends, like you kind of just have to keep them at an arm's length, away sometimes when you're going through these things, because
Yeah.
it's almost like the lack of support kind of hinders you, rather than like just trying to get them to like support you all the time. Right.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like I think about that example, with the bodybuilding, when I was into that. For me, it just became really important to surround myself. Not to say that I didn't want those people around me anymore. It wasn't that. But it was really important to surround myself with people who were supportive of that part of my life, that were kind of pushing me to excel, were pushing me, to the next level. I needed to be around those people. Which is, I think, also, if let's say you're pivoting in your career, let's say you're a budding entrepreneur and you've got this brilliant idea that you go to your best friend or to your significant other and they're like, they kind of have this lukewarm response. You're thinking, like you said, oh man, like maybe this is a dumb idea. Maybe I shouldn't do it. And I would be if this is the first person you're hearing tell you this, don't think that. Don't give up. When you have that idea that there's something more for you, hold on to that. And really, at this point, this is where, even if you have to listen to a podcast or go online and find some kind of like online group or something like that, where people can relate to the things that you want to do in some aspect, do that. Don't let that lack of support take you out of the game or think that you don't have what it takes.
Exactly. You kind of have to find that motivation elsewhere, rather than someone being like, oh my God, that's such a cool idea. Like you should totally do it. Right. You have
Yeah.
to find that motivation elsewhere. You kind of have to find that motivation, which actually that kind of leads into something that I wanted to share,
Yeah.
something that Mel Robbins actually talks about. And I know you know about this. It's called the high five habit.
Yeah.
So you know about this. I know you've done it.
Hmm.
It's not exactly something that she invented. There's a lot of research that goes behind it that
Right.
she has, I guess, learned, and then
Hmm.
she now teaches. So she actually has a book that's literally called The High Five Habit,
Yeah.
and goes into complete detail about how this actually works. And
Yes.
it's like a scientific, like, I mean, like neuroscience, like it's completely backed by research. I want to say there was actually a study of 175,000 people
Oh,
who
wow.
who did this habit for 5 days, and they kind of just researched it. So anyways, basically what it is in short is you high five yourself in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I love it.
right?
There's something that to be said when you do a high five. I remember, I'll take you back when I was doing those boot camps, when I was first getting into fitness, our trainer at the end of every ass kicking boot camp, he would go around to everybody that was there and high five. And it was like, it was the simplest thing, but I loved the high five because it was like, it was an affirmation that I got through that grueling workout. Like, oh my God, I did it. I freaking did it.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
want to say that there was like another study that was done of athletes, right? And it was like the team that did more high fives, more pats on the back, more encouragement and things like that actually did a lot better than other teams that didn't.
Yeah.
So it's all, you know, in your brain.
Hmm.
Um, so basically kind of what I want to teach is the high five habit and how
Yeah.
you can do it, and how Mel Robbins actually teaches it is you want to do what's it called, habit stacking,
Hmm.
right? So she always tells people like, do it right after you brush your teeth, do it
Yes.
after something that you do every single morning, so like brushing your teeth, right? You're
Hmm.
in front of the mirror, you're usually in the bathroom when you're brushing your teeth anyways. So
Yeah.
you want to get done brushing your teeth, and basically what you do is you just look at yourself in the mirror. And what's crazy is she said that 50% of men and women usually can't even do that first step of looking at themselves in the mirror, right? Because
Yeah.
if they're, you know, getting down on themselves, if they're,
Mhm.
you know, if they're just like,
Mm.
I don't know, some people just have like that weird, like really just truly looking at themselves in the mirror.
Yeah.
So you want to look at yourself in the mirror and you want to just high five the mirror. And
Yeah.
so what that does is that releases dopamine, which is the motivation and the drive. Um, what is it? The chemical
Yeah,
that
the
gets you,
hormone.
the
Yeah.
hormone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically the combination of the act and the emotion that's behind the high five is what kind of gets your brain into that encouragement mode. And so
That
it basically
state.
just teaches you to encourage yourself,
Hmm.
have more love for yourself, and
Yep.
more compassion for yourself. And it's like you're just cheering yourself on. So
Hmm.
when you don't have those supportive people in your life,
Yeah.
be your own supportive person
Yep.
and high five yourself in the mirror. And
Hell yeah.
honestly, just do it for 5 days. Do
Just
it for
try it.
5 days and try it out. And it's kind of funny. I think I might have even mentioned this to you about how it's like I went to go high five myself in the mirror. And then I would like take my sleeve and then I would like wipe off the mirror because I'm like OCD cleaner. And so I'm like, oh, well, I don't
Yeah,
want this handprint being on my mirror, right?
exactly. No, it's
So
true. So
funny.
yeah, if you're listening in, seriously, if you think this is crazy, give it 5 days. It was something that I did too. And in fact, I added something in there. So I definitely will look at myself in the mirror, which is a little weird at first, right? Because I look at myself dead in the eyes, and that is a little bit of a trip. So I look at myself in the mirror, and then I will add a statement. Like I'll say something like, you're gonna have a kick-ass week. You are an amazing coach, or something like that. And I will literally say it to myself multiple times if I have to, until I feel like I really feel it, and then I
Mhm.
give myself the high five.
Definitely.
So, it's kind of cool. It's
Yeah.
just like after a few days, you start to feel like when you're done with that, it's just that little bit of the lift. You just feel like, I'm going to just smash this day. I'm just going to smash it. Everything that I get at, I'm going to smash it.
I love
And it's
that.
actually, yeah, that's when, like you said, when you have to be your own damn cheerleader, that's how you start it. Be your own damn cheerleader.
Exactly. No, I love
Mhm.
that. I love that because obviously affirmations, you know, they work. So it's almost like you're habit stacking a habit stack. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like you're you're brushing your teeth and then you're adding the affirmations on top of the high five habit. So
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
And then something else that I was thinking of as far as a lesson learned when people aren't supportive, and really how to not let that get in your way of what your dreams are. Another thing that I learned is that, and I was reminded of this, I think we hear it all the time, is that change is not easy. So whether you're going through change yourself, but even the people around you, when they see you changing, many times that's really hard for them too. And they don't realize it, right? They're used to you being a certain way, or they're used to me being a certain way. Then all of a sudden you've like flipped the switch. And they're like, what the hell is this? And so there's a couple things that I've learned is that oftentimes, when let's say you're making changes to improve your health, like I will share with you even a specific example from a client. They were a couple, a married couple, and I was working with the wife, not with the husband. And she, had been struggling with her weight for many, many years, and she's wanted to improve her weight and her health for many, many years. And as we were working together, she started doing that. And for her husband, not that he wasn't supportive, but it was different. Like, she was eating different. She was having them eat a little different. Her clothes, her clothes were changing. She wasn't looking like, some kind of, you know, like streetwalker or anything, but she was just a lot more cognizant of and aware of what she was wearing. Her clothes, she was able to buy clothes that fit her new form. And he wasn't necessarily like excited about it. I think he felt a little bit threatened about how much she was changing. And it was really hard for her because she was starting to feel like, wow, should I, kind of stop doing what I'm doing, even though I feel amazing? And, I don't want to just like overly simplify everything. I mean, they're able to work things out, but my guidance to her was, obviously I want them to work out their own situation, but this is something that she's doing for her and she feels amazing. And the reasoning behind it was really empowering. It wasn't anything like bad about her relationship. This is stuff that was just lifting her up. And I was like, no, you've got to keep doing what you feel is right for you, what's empowering for you and making you feel just good as a human, as a woman, that you can't let that, sometimes that fear that other people have about when you change, let that stop you.
Oh,
You know?
definitely. No, for sure. And I mean, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're like outgrowing the other person,
Yeah.
right? It just means like you're growing. And, I mean, I guess people can kind of feel intimidated by it, right? Because then they could
Yeah.
kind of take that, kind of almost highlights maybe their health issues or
Yes.
their eating habits that may need some work, right?
Yep.
So
Yes.
people can definitely feel intimidated by other people's growth, by, other people that are around them. But it doesn't mean that you need to dim your own light, right?
Amen.
If you're
Yeah.
around other people and you feel like you need to dim your light for them because you're growing, that's not a good thing,
Right.
you know?
Oh, for sure.
I tell
Like,
like just tell them to buy some sunglasses.
yeah, exactly. And I think what happens too with many situations is that someone else's change, like your change, for example, let's say, is highlighting to someone who's close to you that maybe there's changes that they want to make, but they're reluctant to go after, or maybe they're afraid, or they don't know how to go after the change that they want. So seeing you make changes is just highlighting the fact that they're not. So it's hard for them to be excited about something that makes them feel insecure. And so it's really not your issue. It's really them projecting onto you their own insecurities. And so I think sometimes it can be helpful to, doesn't mean that, hey, you stop doing what you do, but we can just be understanding to stay to the point, or understanding to the point where we can say, hey, I'm doing this for me and I feel great, and then, I'm going to do me regardless. I love you. I support you if you want to do those things for yourself, but I'm doing this for me. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because really, I mean, at the end of the day, this is your life. And
Yep.
if you're not doing the things that you want to do because you're basing it off of other people's judgment
Yep.
or criticism, I mean, this is your life and
Yeah.
you need to take control.
Yes. And I just thought of something. I'm like, oh, I got to ask you
Yeah.
this one. All right. Because I
Huh?
know a lot of people can understand and relate to this, is the unsolicited opinions and the you shoulds. And I think that you should stop doing this or whatever. I mean, we've probably heard it all. I mean, maybe for you, is there like an example or a situation that stands out to you as far as just
Hmm.
people trying to tell you what to do or what not to do or what not to wear, or whatever, like that.
Um, I'm trying to think of an example. Yeah, I can think of an
Yeah.
example where, so when I opened up my salon, I did
Hmm.
it very creatively, and I opened up in a hotel. So
Hmm.
basically, there's a line of hotel rooms that are now being rented out to, I guess, salon and beauty professionals, where
Yeah.
we can technically we're running our businesses by ourselves, but we're basically leasing it commercially. So technically we're actually probably most of the time paying less than if we were to, say rent a suite out somewhere else, right? So we did it very
Right.
creatively. And for me, when I had first started working there, it was actually very successful. And I had a lot of people who came there and they were like excited to be there. And I remember I had a friend who said, who's going to want to go and get their hair done at a hotel? And I just
Wow.
looked at him and I go, a lot of people. I go, a lot of my clients come here and a lot of my clients actually love it.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh. And that was a moment where I could have totally gotten discouraged and been like,
Yeah.
you're so right. But really, the way that I look at it is it's not like people are going to a hotel to get their hair done. It's my salon is located in the same
Yeah.
building as a hotel. You know what I mean?
Right.
I did this very creatively and it's actually very successful.
Yeah.
So don't try and dim my light, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
was a moment in time where I could have totally gotten discouraged and that I could have let that negative poison get into my mind and have those negative thoughts start spiraling.
Yep.
But I nipped it. I was like, no. I was like, a lot of people actually, a lot of people
Oh,
come and get their hair done.
what a story, because I can see how very quickly you could second guess yourself, like thinking, oh man, maybe that was a mistake or whatever. And I
Mhm.
think, I could share one very
Yeah.
similar to that where, again, totally unsolicited opinion or advice. And from someone, I think this is the kicker. It's usually they come from people who are not even in the game, like not even in the playing field, but they have these really impassioned opinions about you and what you're doing, that somehow you're doing it wrong. And like my instinct with a lot of these, it's like, and your experience in this is what? Like
Right.
I like advice from people who are in the game, and they can give me some lessons learned and things that can save me the pain and heartache. But when it's coming from someone who has like nothing to do, for example, like with nutrition coaching, I remember someone telling me, um, that's a really saturated field. And my thought process was, well, if it's saturated, that means there's money to be made and a lot of people need help, right? There's a lot of people who need help with their nutrition and their weight and their health. I can literally walk out my house, to the nearest whatever little shopping mall, and there's probably 50% of the people there need some kind of nutrition and weight loss and help with their health, or improving their health. And
For
so I could
sure.
have just been like, well, yeah, I guess it is saturated, which it is, and have been like, yeah, maybe this was a dumb decision. But then I realized, I was like, this is actually coming from someone who could use my help, right? And is
Yeah,
not even an entrepreneur, doesn't have any idea of what it's like to run a business like that, and had this impassioned opinion, like, what are you doing? And for me, I was like, you know what? Hey, you have your opinion. You're entitled to it. I don't agree with you at all. I told him, I was like, I can agree to disagree. And we're going to leave it at that and just keep it moving,
for sure.
you
Dude,
know?
good for you.
Yeah.
Good
There's
for
something
you.
else I wanted to share too, is when, and maybe this can even lead to a whole other episode, but what about as women and criticism on the things you wear? Whether if it's could it be too sexy, too conservative, and whatever. Have you ever had anybody come at you with that?
Um, I don't think so, but I think it's because I kind of grew up with my mom being a little bit like conservative.
Hmm.
So I've never really been like showing cleavage to me as like kind of a big deal.
Right.
Like so I don't know, I've never really, I guess, dressed like that to the point where I feel like
Yeah.
I've felt judged. I'm trying to think if there was a time though where someone
Yeah.
said something to me. But to be honest, most of the time I haven't really taken it personally.
Yeah. And that's good.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh my God,
Because
yes.
your style is like so on point. Like I love your style.
Oh, thank you. I love yours.
Thanks.
Yeah. You know, this is interesting because I think that I think again, whatever it is that your preferences in your fashion and how much skin you decide to choose or not, or choose to show or not show, that's very personal. And I think whatever you want for you, is just own it. Because I feel like I've gone through the whole spectrum. Because when I first started getting into social media, I was at the height of competing in bodybuilding in the bikini division, which is like zero clothes. I mean, thong bikini, we were doing shoots all the time, and I was a sponsored athlete. And if I looked at my feed then versus now, it's like two different people. Now, the stuff that I, gained from that experience is amazing. I'm proud of that. I mean, but now as a coach and let's say the situations that I'm in now and the people I'm working with and opportunities maybe to work with businesses, it's probably not the most beneficial if I post me in a thong bikini on stage. It's probably not the most helpful for me, but I'm still proud of that, what I did back then. That's still part of who I am. And I think what happens sometimes is that, as far as like this unsolicited opinion, like I've had so many people like tell me things like on from both spectrums. They'll tell me, "You look amazing. Like, you're almost 50. You look amazing. You're a nutrition coach. You should be showing more of your body, because that's very inspiring to other people." And then I have literally, and people who can be close to me too, they're like, you shouldn't show anything. Like you shouldn't have to show anything to show that you're good at what you do. And it's like these totally opposite opinions of what I quote unquote should do, when ultimately I think that the lesson that I've learned from all of that, because that started like years ago, all these opinions on what to wear and what I shouldn't do. I just got to the point where it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna do what the heck feels good for me. So when you said like thank you, I mean thank you for sharing that you like my style. I'm like, if one day I like to show my midriff, I'm gonna show my midriff because I feel like I
For
want to
sure.
rock it. If someday I want to wear this little mock turtleneck shirt that I have right now because I want to wear that, I want to freaking wear that. And I don't need, well, it would be nice to always have people cheering for you, but I don't need to have that just to choose what I feel comfortable wearing. You know what I mean? I don't know. Hopefully I
Definitely.
didn't totally digress, but that is
No.
something that I just feel like we just get all this input all the time to kind of almost like force us in a way that other people want us to go, when ultimately that's our call,
Oh, for sure. For
right?
sure. I mean, yeah, bringing just the whole unsolicited advice. To be honest, everybody's going to have their own opinion. That's what makes everybody our own unique selves,
Yeah.
right? Like we all have an opinion about everything, but like for me, if someone tells me that the sky is purple, I'm going to be like, that's great. That's amazing that you think the sky is purple, but I'm
Hmm.
not going to sit here and try and convince you that the sky is blue. If that's what you choose to believe, then that's what you choose to believe. But
Right.
I'm going to have my own beliefs. And
Yeah.
so you really just have to have the confidence enough to, take that advice and just take it with a grain of salt and just be like, okay, that's cool. Like, that's cool that
Right.
you think that, right? Someone could walk up and just, some stranger could literally walk up to me and tell me, like, right to my face, like, you're ugly. And I'm going to be like, cool.
Yeah.
Have a great day. Like, it's
Yeah.
not going to affect, like, it's just going to bounce right out. Like, it's not going to affect me.
Yeah.
Um, so really it's just kind of like, you have to just bring it back to yourself.
Hmm.
Um, but especially too, if you're trying to start a business or if you're trying to like get into some kind of, hobby or something and someone has something negative to say about it, just bring it back to why you wanted to do it in the first place. And
Yeah.
just know that those people aren't you. They're not living your life. They're not paying your bills. They don't have the same goals and the same, dreams as you do. So once again, don't dim your light. Just ask them to buy some sunglasses because I'm not cool. I'm too bright for you. Get some freaking sunglasses because I'm not dimming myself to fit into your category of what you think I should be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I love that. And I think that, and we're not saying that, hey, you have to completely change your circles and then disown your family and disown your friends. They're not good enough for you. But maybe think about this. Think about sometimes you can enhance your circle. And enhancing your circle means maybe, you're if you are listening to, let's say, the podcasts or, YouTube channels that inspire you and that keep that motivation in you going, that kind of keeps that entrepreneurial spirit or that idea that you have brewing about a business that you want to start, keep that brewing and keep that going, really supporting you that way. Because sometimes the way you surround yourself, the things that you feed yourself, not just food, but your environment, things you're listening to, the people who are talking to you, really makes an impact. And so enhance that circle, make sure you're filling it with things that, really talk to you and speak to that part of your life.
Definitely. For sure. Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
just like you said, you don't necessarily have to cut people out of your life, but like I said before, maybe just keep them at an arm's length
Mhm.
away. And if they have something bad to say about whatever it is that you're starting, whether it's a business or a hobby, like I said,
Mhm.
um, just don't talk to them about it. Right. And find
Yep.
someone that you can talk to that's going to, motivate you, or find some kind of podcast, or, go through your social
Mhm.
media and, maybe start following some people that are in the same
Right.
field that you want to be in. Right.
Yes.
I think that's why like our conversations over the years have always been so like inspiring, because
Yeah.
anytime we talk to each other, it's like we'll like randomly think of some kind of business idea and we'll
Mhm.
be like, dude, that's so cool. Like that'd be such a good idea. And then we kind of talk about like, we like brainstorm with each other. It's
Yeah.
like find people like that that
Yeah.
can totally help you and motivate you. And you're good to go.
Oh, I know. Oh, I love that. We've had so many talks. We've had so many ideas. So many
Right?
things that we're just waiting. We're just waiting for them to come to fruition, right? Like we've got so many things just cooking in the kitchen, cooking in the kitchen.
Yeah. I mean, we even we talked about starting like a hair care line or an extension line, or we've talked
Right.
about stuff like that before. And it's like just, who knows? Like I
Who
feel like the
knows?
possibilities are endless, but really just like unsolicited advice, really take it with a grain of salt. Give
Yep.
yourself a high five in the mirror
Yep.
for 5 days. I mean, it takes what, 5 seconds, 10 seconds to like really look at yourself in the mirror
Yeah.
and high five yourself. Some
Mm-hmm.
people, and I think even in the study, they said that some people actually got emotional when they would look at
Oh,
themselves in the mirror, right?
yeah.
There's like an emotion behind that high five and behind that action of just looking at yourself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Try it
Yep.
out.
They said, yeah, because of that action of really like getting that eye contact with yourself and really looking at yourself, not just like sort of looking and to see what you look like, but really looking, acknowledging yourself. It's like I said, it's kind of intense at first when you really look at yourself, and especially, if you do add some kind of affirmation, like I was sharing, like I'm a kick-ass person or something like that, it can get kind of emotional because you feel like, wow, that's a direct, like, direct words, affirmation to you in the moment, like first thing in the morning.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, like you said, you might feel a little like weird and a little silly doing it. I remember I did for the first time,
Yeah.
high-fiving myself in the mirror. Like I remember like wiping off, like,
Yeah.
like, wiping the mirror.
I know. You're like,
So
oh my God.
bad. I'm like, really, my OCD right now.
I get it. So I think that we talked about today is really important. I think for, not, and it's not just for entrepreneurs or people who are looking to pivot their career. It's really just everyone. Everyone can really benefit from, just understanding that whatever it is that you might be wanting to do for yourself, um, don't let the, unsupportive or the lack of support from people who are the closest to you, or maybe it's their lack of understanding, don't let that get in your way. Don't let that doubt you or doubt what your heart is saying that you want. Really just hold on to, if you've had that moment where you're like, I really want to do this. I really want to do something more for me. Whatever that is, whatever that idea is, hold on to that. And like you said, Clarissa, just hold on to that, really why you want to do that. And if you just kind of hold on to that and don't get so swayed by those external things kind of poking at you all the time, you'll get there. You'll find your way.
No, exactly. It's definitely not for entrepreneurs. I mean, this could relate to, new moms, right?
Yeah.
People constantly telling you how you should parent your children or what you should be doing, what you should be using,
Yeah.
or, planning a wedding. There's always unsolicited advice that comes in from the in-laws or from whoever, like, oh, you should do this or you should do that, or
Yeah.
planning some kind of event that you want to do. There's always going to be, like this could relate to like literally anyone who's doing anything. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely. I think it's an important topic. And I remember talking about it like multiple times with you, how it's like, it's so frustrating how
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, like literal people who like barely know me, it seems
Yeah.
like support me more than the people that are closest to me. And it's just,
Yep.
you just gotta not take it personally.
I know. It's true, right? Like that saying, you really watch who's cheering for you when you win. That says a lot,
Exactly.
right? Keep a
Exactly.
look at, keep an eye on that. The people who are cheering for you when you win, whether they're big wins or small wins, right? And then the people who are not cheering, they can have their reasons. I don't know what those reasons are. But like you said, take their input like a grain of salt. Don't let those people who are one, not even supporting you, two, not even in the playing field of what you're trying to do. They're not even in the arena in the fight. Sometimes those
Exactly.
opinions just need to be pushed
because
aside.
because
Pushed
sometimes
aside.
those opinions aren't even really about you. It could have a lot more to do with themselves and what
Yep.
they're going through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
Yeah,
this is
this was
great.
good. I'm glad we finally got to touch on this topic because I know both you and I, clearly we just talked this whole episode about it. We've had a lot of experience with unsupportive people and how to continue to push through despite those unsupportive people.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I'm so excited. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. And like I said, try that high five habit. It's
that's
like
right.
it's a game
And if
changer.
you exactly try the high five habit, if you haven't already, subscribe, hit the bell if you're on YouTube so that you can be alerted for new episodes. And until next time, we'll see ya. We're out.
Bye guys.
Bye.